Good evening and welcome to the MacDowell 2020 National Benefit, Invest in Artists, honoring Ava DuVernay and Array with the inaugural Marian MacDowell Award for Arts Advocacy. Now please welcome author, professor, visual artist, renowned historian, MacDowell Fellow, and your host for the evening, MacDowell Board Chair, Nell Painter.
Good evening and welcome. I'm talking to you from the Adirondacks, wishing we were in New York, wishing we were in New York together. It's an honor to be here with you tonight and to share some of our glorious artistic creations of our MacDowell Fellows, works you supported through your commitment to invest in artists, invest in their work, and invest in the world that their creativity makes possible. Thank you to our dinner chairs and benefit patrons for making this evening possible, as well as our corporate sponsors, Boston Private, Penguin Random House, Michael Rosenfeld Gallery, and HarperCollins. And special thanks to MacDowell's Executive Director, Philip Himberg. Philip's first year in the job has been an unusual one, and he is led with generosity, imagination, and compassion, and a firm grip on the wheel. Thank you, Philip. Tonight, your contributions will allow us to broaden the reach of MacDowell's programs as we continue to fight to remove barriers from participation in our residencies. It has been an unprecedented year for all of us, a year of suspension, loss, sometimes the loss truly searing, and awakening. And I cannot wait to share with you how MacDowell uniquely stood up during these complicated and challenging times, continuing to answer its mission of nurturing the arts and artists who create enduring works of the imagination. And tonight we come together for a celebration of arts, advocacy, and the work of MacDowell Fellows. It is my pleasure to be joined by my fellow fellow and Pulitzer Prize winning author, Andrew Sean Greer.
Oh, hello there. I'm enjoying a little champagne at home, dressed in my glamorous gala attire, as I hope are all of you. Actually, obviously this isn't champagne. It's White Claw, which I bought 4 cases of in May, and I just have to get through. And this isn't my home. I lost my mind, and I'm living with friends in Maine. And this is not my most glamorous gala attire. Anyone who knows me knows I can do a lot better than this. I mean, I can do like Billy Porter level gala attire, but that's not important. What's important? I'm not here to be glamorous. I'm here to be that turtleneck wearing artist. Proud to be one of the artists MacDowell has invested in with time and work to create on the serene MacDowell grounds in Peterborough, New Hampshire. Time to create. Anyone with small children knows how valuable it is in these strange times. You know how you're out to get cauliflower and someone has to drive to the store and both of you are like, I got it, me, got it, don't worry, got it, handled it. Just for a moment to be in the car by yourself. MacDowell is that drive to get cauliflower for myself and for the artists who come after me. We all share with MacDowell and with each other our creativity, our ideas, and our visions for our collective future. And this is a fundraiser. So I want to draw your attention to the information at the bottom of the screen. This is our wonderfully electronically advanced way of guiding your contributions tonight and your commitments to invest in artists such as myself. All you have to do is text 516-788-8525, the words give, and the amount. I like the amount, $300,000, and your name and a message. We have an online auction open until 30 minutes after we end, where you can bid on signed work by fellows, socially distant mushroom foraging in the New Hampshire woods, dance workshops with Ann B. Parsons, MacDowell masks, or a personal dinner from MacDowell Fellow, author, and personal chef to Madonna, Travis James Dorsey. Chef to Madonna? I mean, I assume he uses like a virgin olive oil. Anyway, okay, that's it. If I took hollandaise, no. Okay, I'm done. Don't worry. The link to the auction and text giving number will be available throughout the evening for you to give. I will be back to applaud your support throughout the evening, but for now, I release you back into the loving hands of Nell Painter.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm thrilled to share with you tonight some of the brilliant and inspired work born on the MacDowell grounds. Our first presentation comes from a Tony Award-winning composer of 5 Broadway musicals and 4 operas. She is a 2-time finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for Drama and one of the first women to be commissioned by the Metropolitan Opera. Please join me in welcoming producer, teacher, mother, and MacDowell Fellow, Jeanine Tesori.
This is Jeanine Tesori. When I left my MacDowell residency in February, I had no idea what was waiting for me, waiting for us. There was a difference between solitude, something you get at MacDowell, solitude, but a sense of the collective, a sense of others who are in the same boat with you. The difference between solitude and isolation is something that I have not stopped thinking about since I left there. Solitude is something you seek. Isolation, I think, is something that happens to you. Soft Power is a show that David Henry Hwang and I wrote about a system, about sacrifice, about looking at your head and your heart, about what's good for one as opposed to what's good for all. Karen Olivo is going to sing the song Democracy from that show. It's a song about belief, about reform, about a renewed spirit of possibility. I hope you enjoy.
I know better than you. I know, this much is true. So many times it's left me battered and bruised, disillusioned, in pain, feeling I've been used. I swear I'll give it up before it downright kills me, and it comes back again with promises that thrill me, and I forget what I really should know, and I forget that it's just a big, big show, and I dream, oh I dream of all it could be, and once more I believe in democracy. Ooh, democracy. Democracy. It's broken my heart so many times before, but this one was the worst. Left me screaming on the floor. I was taught in the land of the free, in the land that screamed at me life, liberty. How can I turn my back on democracy? Am I still in pain, suffering from trauma? Am I insane, addicted to drama? No, no, no! And I forget what I really should know. I forget that it's just a big, big hard enough, good and grown up enough to lift us up. Lift us up. Lift us up. And I dream they can be somehow worthy of. Look, this country's a disaster in so many ways, but we have the power. We have the power. We have the power to change. That's what I believe in. I know, I know, I know, I know. I believe. Oh, I believe in democracy.
Thank you, Jeanine, and thank you, Karen, for that timely and moving interpretation of sentiments we so need now. I want to acknowledge fellows past and present. I want to acknowledge board and new board members. And I want to acknowledge those who may be new to MacDowell thanks to this innovative, inclusive, and virtual program. Welcome. We are one community investing in artists through MacDowell, which has welcomed and nourished, literally, generations of diverse artists from all over the world and all American communities. For over a century, MacDowell has fostered more than 14,000 artistic residencies in its 450 acres in Peterborough, New Hampshire, a wooded, bucolic haven that has inspired countless works of art. During their stay at MacDowell, each artist is provided with a private studio, 3 delicious meals a day, and whatever we can provide them to help create their best work. The story of how it all began starts in 1896, when composer Edward MacDowell and pianist Marian MacDowell bought a farm in Peterborough, New Hampshire, a place where they spent summers creating unencumbered in the peaceful surroundings. When Edward fell prematurely ill, he shared a wish with Marian, a wish to provide other artists the opportunity to create in this place of natural wonder where he thrived. Inspired and unyielding, Marian set about realizing the dream as she searched for financial support to create an artistic retreat that provided community, natural inspiration, and cross-disciplinary stimulation. In 1907, as a result of her efforts, one of the nation's earliest artist residencies was born, and it became Marian's mission to sustain it. She traveled tirelessly across the country, offering piano recitals of her husband's work, as she sought support for the MacDowell residencies, then called the Peterborough Experiment. Marian's call was answered by organizations run by women: the Women's Music Sorority Sigma Alpha Iota, the National Federation of Music Clubs. Both bolstered Marian's advocacy and recognized MacDowell's contribution to American culture. The mission that began with a selfless wish has flourished over 113 years and has held steadfast throughout its many phases of leadership. Former board chair Michael Chabon encapsulated our mission perfectly when he said, "We need to give artists the freedom to fail and the space to succeed." By emulating those words, MacDowell has continued to inspire artistic experimentation, creation, creativity, growth, and expression in a unique and reverent setting, faithfully honoring its longstanding commitment to community, as the calendar turned to March of 2020, and we faced the public health threat of COVID-19. MacDowell decided to responsibly press pause on our program to ensure the health and safety of our artists and staff. But with time for reflection came reinvention. In collaboration with Monadnock Community Hospital, MacDowell began to offer its studios to medical professionals working on the front lines of COVID-19, offering them a safe place to lay their heads without fear of potentially infecting vulnerable family members. A place previously inhabited by poets, painters, writers, architects, and composers, now offering shelter to heroic frontline workers whose selfless efforts to keep us safe continued during these most challenging times. Simultaneously, MacDowell created artists' hubs on its website in order to keep our community connected. Over 214 fellows have gathered since March for virtual reunions, to share work via Zoom, and to scream when needed. Playlists were posted and resources to help artists weather the pandemic were shared. And in alignment with the movement for Black Lives, MacDowell curated a social justice hub, a place where artistic works that address our current moment and earlier anti-racist activism could be shared and resonate. Our commitment to removing barriers to participation continued in August with our first ever virtual MacDowell experience, honoring the commitment to artists whose residencies had been postponed in April and May. Virtual MacDowell is a fully online program encouraging the inspiration typically found on campus through shared meals, open studios, and small group interactions that result from engagement and exchange of ideas. The first iteration of this experiment helped us to foresee a future for those who were unable to attend MacDowell in person, while also giving us the time and space to improve our historic grounds and studios. Since our closing, we have worked with an advisory team of doctors, state officials, and local organizations to determine how to safely welcome a limited cohort of fellows back to our grounds for the first time since March. MacDowell is committed to honoring our history and evolving our mission so we can truly serve artists and responsibly step into our future.
Wow. Thank you, Nell, for that inspiring glimpse into the work that MacDowell continues to do by investing in artists. I'm back with another White Claw to remind you that you too can invest in artists by texting 516-788-8525, the words give, and the amount, I think 1 million, who can hold any number in their head, and your name and a message. This directly supports artists like myself who find their work transformed by the time they spend at MacDowell. As a fellow, I felt for the first time that I really was an artist, not just because of the community of incredible creators around me, but the studio. The lunch delivered to my door and the staff themselves made me understand that what I was doing was not a hobby. It was important enough for people to work hard to give me what feels like a luxury, but which is not. I have started novels at MacDowell. I have finished novels at MacDowell, and I have thrown away novels at MacDowell. You guys are doing great, and keep going.
Thank you, Andy. And now on to our next fellow presentation for the evening. Please join me in welcoming New York-based filmmaker Isabel Sandoval, whose acclaimed third feature, Lingua Franca, premiered in Venice and was acquired by Ava DuVernay's Array, debuting on Netflix this past August. During her time at MacDowell, Isabel wrote her upcoming feature, Tropical Gothic, a haunting 16th century romantic drama with traces of Hitchcock's Vertigo.
Good evening. I'm Isabel Sandoval, and I'm a proud MacDowell Fellow in film. Last November, after 3 straight months of traveling to festivals to present my film Lingua Franca, I arrived for my residency at MacDowell the night of Thanksgiving, and right away was warmly welcomed by the other fellows celebrating there. For someone who's lived mostly in New York City after moving from the Philippines and conceived and made my art right where the action is, I wasn't sure what to expect from my time at MacDowell. It snowed steadily over the next 3 days, and my internal rhythm shifted both as a person and as a storyteller. I was in a creative thrall seeing extraordinary artists, including Nell Painter, deeply immersed in their own process, making art that's ambitious, challenging, and transcendent. And in the 5 weeks that I stayed at MacDowell, I finished the first draft of my upcoming feature film, Tropical Gothic, a 16th century set Philippine colonial drama that reimagines Hitchcock's Vertigo from a female gaze. I can never thank MacDowell enough for that experience. A few months later, in May, I received an email from Tayari Jones, the president of Array. We had actually been in touch with Array since October, following the premiere of Lingua Franca in Venice, but this time Tayari reached out with an offer to distribute Lingua Franca. It took me by surprise, and I mean that in the best possible way. But it felt surreal to have my work, which is idiosyncratic and personal, that it can seem opaque, to resonate with a truly accomplished filmmaker like Ava and her magnificent team at Array. But over the weeks and months that they have worked tirelessly to get the film out, it became crystal clear that Array is the perfect home for my film. You know, in this industry, someone like me, and I've joked that I'm what you'd call a gold star minority, because not only am I a woman, I am a trans woman of color who's also an immigrant. Someone like me rarely gets the chance to tell a story in this industry, let alone a story that I authored myself and chose to tell, and to be able to do so in my own uncompromising voice and vision. So I wanted to make that story count with Lingua Franca. Ava saw and realized the value of that and made sure that people listened to my story, which I chose to tell subtly and delicately, and that they paid attention. That the person who made that happen was Ava, who is a true maverick who forged her own path in the industry and kicked doors open for underrepresented voices and artists like me, made it all the more meaningful. Ava and Array do not see film as a mere product or commodity. From my personal experience with them, I don't see Array as simply being in the business of distributing independent films, but Ava is building a bold new American cinematic canon. A canon of films that are visionary and fearless, artistically innovative, and politically engaged. I'm tremendously honored and humbled that Lingua Franca is part of Array's roster. With that said, thank you, Ava and Array, for the contributions that you've made so far to American art and culture, and the remarkable contributions that I'm sure you'll continue to make. And my sincerest thanks to MacDowell for selecting me as a fellow and for duly recognizing Ava and Array for the work that they do. Thank you.
Ugh. That's so good.
Hello?
When can I go home?
You're home, Olga. Look behind you. Do you see the wallpaper?
Then look.
Is that not your wallpaper? Don't you remember picking out that wallpaper yourself when you first had your son Roman?
And yes, I remember it. I picked this wallpaper out.
Now look at the stove. Isn't that the stove that you cooked borscht in for your children when they were younger?
Yes, I did, yes.
You're home. Olga, do you see that now?
Yes.
Please welcome MacDowell Fellow, author, director of the National Endowment for the Arts under Bill Clinton, and a former MacDowell board member, Tony and Emmy Award-winning actress, Jane Alexander.
I'm pleased to talk about the creation of the Marian MacDowell Arts Advocacy Award. First, let me recognize the generous support of Agnes Gund, who is underwriting the award. Aggie, your life as an advocate for the arts, fostering programs ranging from arts education to art in prison reform, is awe-inspiring. Artists present us with many things. For one thing, they tell me about my fellow human beings and about myself. They help me explore what may be at the forefront of my mind: the COVID-19 pandemic, the climate crisis, Black Lives Matter, the myriad ways diversity is stifled, suppressed, or killed. If our changing world needs interpretation, the arts will provide it. Sometimes they reveal solutions, always possibilities. Artists do this vital creative work, but without audiences, art lovers, advocates all, the arts do not come alive. Marian MacDowell made a lifelong commitment to support creativity when she founded MacDowell. A gifted pianist in her own right, Marian said, "The fostering of a great creative gift was an infinitely higher mission than interpreting the work of others. I am a very ordinary woman who had an opportunity and I seized it." By being a champion of fellow artists, she nurtured the careers of thousands, all of whom in their own way have helped to shape our world, which is why in these pivotal times, we introduce the Marian MacDowell Award in Arts Advocacy. This award is meant to put a spotlight on individuals and organizations doing important work for artists, helping provide greater equity and access, and supporting careers. Here to introduce the inaugural recipient of the Marian MacDowell Award in Arts Advocacy, please welcome the president of the Ford Foundation, Darren Walker.
Thank you, Jane, for your remarkable leadership in the arts. You have impacted our nation in such positive ways, and we are especially grateful for your commitment to the arts and arts advocacy. I also want to welcome the brilliant Nell Painter. I can't think of a better person to be at the helm of the board of the national cultural treasure that is MacDowell. I look forward to seeing how your vision, Nell, your advocacy, your art, and your intellect inform the coming years of MacDowell's program. At the Ford Foundation, we believe that the American cultural landscape rests on the legacy of great institutions like MacDowell and depends on the creation of new, innovative platforms. And that brings me to our honoree, the incomparable, genius, dazzling Ava DuVernay. Ava formed Array in 2012 as a multi-platform media company and arts collective based in Los Angeles to amplify independent films by Black artists, people of color, and women filmmakers globally. To date, it has supported numerous impactful works, such as Lingua Franca, which we saw a bit of tonight, the first film directed by and starring a trans woman of color in screen competition at the 2019 Venice International Film Festival, and Burning Cane, the 2019 Tribeca Film Festival Founders Award winner. Tonight's award is underwritten by that great firefighter for justice and friend of Ava's, Agnes Gund, chairman of MoMA PS1 and a philanthropist who has supported the work of so many artists over the years. In the steps of Marian MacDowell, advocates like Aggie advocate and support organizations like Array so that they can play an important role in engaging and continually reforming our arts ecosystem. So how wonderful that MacDowell, the mother of all residencies, is using its platform to elevate and promote an organization who is doing such important work. The partnership between Array and MacDowell is an exciting and critically important one. The creative process that takes place in residency and the distribution of the resulting work gives artists and their audiences the opportunity to create and share their own vision of the worlds they represent through their art. It is my honor to introduce my extraordinary friend, my shero, and the founder of Array, the inaugural recipient of the Marian MacDowell Award in Arts Advocacy, Ava DuVernay.
Greetings, friends. Thank you, Darren, for that beautiful introduction and for being a dear friend and supporter of Array. Wish I was there with you. Wish I was there with all of you. Wish we were all together. Thank you to Agnes Gund for underwriting this award. She's a true hero of mine, and to be mentioned in the same space, the same room, the same breath as her in any capacity is always an honor. On behalf of the entire Array team, I'm thrilled that we are the first recipient of the Marian MacDowell Arts Advocacy Award. This award speaks to our life's work and Array's work to amplify stories centered on Black artists and people of color and women of all kinds. And the fact that Miss MacDowell, who also was disrupting the culture by supporting artists from many walks of life back in 1907, and who embodied many of the same principles that I hold dear, makes receiving this award all the more singularly special. I'm touched that our Narrative Change Collective Array, which is built on a mission to articulate and amplify stories from the widest range of art makers, is being honored with this award in her name. And I really look forward to cultivating a partnership between Array and MacDowell to enable more artists of color, specifically women, to be a part of the residency program in the coming years. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you for creating space for Array and for all the artists that we support and all the artists that you support. And it just really feels beautiful to hold hands with you. So thank you for welcoming us. Good night.
I am Tayari Jones, MacDowell Fellow and author of 4 novels, including An American Marriage, which was an Oprah's Book Club pick and featured at the MacDowell Benefit in 2018. MacDowell has provided support and care to me many times over the years, and I am not alone. When I was just a debut writer, I came to MacDowell. I had no idea that such an opportunity was available for someone like me, just out of school with no money. But MacDowell let me stay there for 8 weeks, provided me with a lovely lunch, beautiful place to work, and most importantly, a community of writers, friends that I carry in my heart to this day. It was at MacDowell that I first found my tribe. My experience is not unique. So many of America's most valuable minds have been gifted time and space at MacDowell at all different stages of their careers. An artist's work is valuable both during their lifetime and after. Years after support is given, new audiences can discover a work of art and gather meaning from it. It is my honor, then, to introduce a performance inspired by work of MacDowell Fellow Audre Lorde, a self-described Black lesbian, mother, warrior, and poet, whose work confronting and addressing the injustices of racism, sexism, classism, heterosexism, and homophobia still resonates today. Obie and Lilly Award-winning director Whitney White collaborated with MacDowell Fellow Issa Davis, actors Karen Pittman, Marsha Stephanie Blake, and Charlene Woodward, and MacDowell Fellow Jerome Ellis to create the following piece inspired by Audre's work and legacy.
There's so many roots to the tree of anger that sometimes the branches shatter before they bear. Sitting in Nedics, the women rally before they march, discussing the problematic girls they hire to make them free. An almost white counterman passes, awaiting brother to serve them first. And the ladies neither notice nor reject the slighter pleasures of their slavery. But I, who am bound by my mirror as well as my bed, see causes in color as well as sex, and sit here wondering which me will survive all these liberations. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid love will never return. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive.
The stars dwindle and will not reward me, even in triumph. It is possible to shoot a man in self-defense and still notice how his red blood decorates the snow.
It is the sink of the afternoon. The children asleep or weary. I finished planting the tomatoes in this brief sun after 4 days of rain. Now there's There's brown earth under my fingernails, and sun full on my skin with my head thick as honey. The tips of my fingers are stinging from the rich earth, but more so from the lack of your body. I've been to this place before, where blood seething commanded my fingers fresh from the earth. Dream of plowing a furrow whose name should be you.
Moon-marked and touched by sun, my magic is unwritten. But when the sea turns back, it will leave my shape behind. I seek no favor, untouched by blood, unrelenting as the curse of love, permanent as my errors or my pride. I do not mix love with pity, nor hate with scorn. And if you would know me, look into the entrails of Uranus, where the restless oceans pound. I do not dwell within my birth, nor my divinities, who am ageless and half grown, and still seeking my sisters. Witches in Dahomey wear me inside their coiled cloths, as our mother did, mourning. I have been woman for a long time. Beware my smile. I am treacherous with old magic and the noon's new fury. With all your wide futures promised, I am woman. And not white.
The difference between poetry and rhetoric is being ready to kill yourself instead of your children.
I am trapped on a desert of raw gunshot wounds and a dead child dragging his shattered black face off the edge of my sleep.
Blood from his punctured cheeks and shoulders is the only liquid for miles, and my stomach churns at the imagined taste while my mouth splits into dry lips without loyalty or reason, thirsting for the wetness of his blood as it sinks into the whiteness of the desert where I am lost.
Without imagery or magic, trying to make power out of hatred and destruction, trying to heal my dying son with kisses, only the sun will bleach his bones quicker.
A policeman who shot down a 10-year-old in Queens stood over the boy with his cop shoes and childish blood, and the voice said, "Die, you little motherfucker." And there are tapes to prove it. At his trial, this policeman said in his own defense, "I didn't notice the size, nor nothing else, only the color." And there are tapes to prove that too.
Today, that 37-year-old white man with 13 years of police forcing was set free by 11 white men who said they were satisfied justice had been done, and one Black woman who said, "They convinced me," meaning they had dragged her 4'10" Black woman's frame over the hot coals of 4 centuries of white male approval until she let go the first real power she ever had and lined her own womb with cement to make a graveyard for our children.
I have not been able to touch the destruction within me, But unless I learn to use the difference between poetry and rhetoric, my power too will run corrupt as poisonous mold, or lie limp and useless as an unconnected wire. And one day I will take my teenaged plug and connect it to the nearest socket, raping an 85-year-old white woman who is somebody's mother. And as I beat her senseless and set a torch to her bed, a Greek chorus will be singing in 3/4 time. Poor thing. She never hurt a soul. What beasts they are.
Thank you, Whitney, Karen, Marcia, Isa, Charlene, and Jerome, for that powerful and resonant tribute. Audre Lorde has spoken to us for years, but especially now, she is a guide to our best humanity. Double thanks. MacDowell Fellows like Audre Lorde, poets, journalists, essayists, and leaders in critical thought, have been coming to MacDowell for many years, reflecting a long-standing commitment to the art of journalism and MacDowell's belief in nurturing the work of cultural critics. If you, like me, are passionate about journalism, I hope you will tune in to MacDowell's virtual panel on Monday, October 26th, featuring board member and editor Virginia Quarterly Review Paul Reyes, moderating a conversation with MacDowell Fellows Alex Marzano-Lesnevich, Alexis Okiowo, and Jeff Charlotte. No matter your background, your experience, your identities, or history of training, when you are at MacDowell, you are an artist at home in a community of peers. You are given the wonderful freedom to experiment and the support necessary to make that experimentation possible. Our final performer this evening was in residence with me when I was last at MacDowell, and his compositions exemplify the type of innovation that often takes place on the MacDowell grounds. Mixing visual components, beautiful music, and his performers' brainwaves, it is my pleasure to introduce Hong Kong-based composer and MacDowell Fellow, Austin Yip.
Hello, I'm Austin Yip.
Hello, I'm Patrick Yim. We'd like to thank MacDowell for this wonderful opportunity to share our latest collaboration. Austin and I have worked together on a number of projects for solo violin and solo violin with electronics.
Tonight we are presenting a brand new work called Inside the Mind Of, which I wrote during my residency in MacDowell last November. This work is composed of numerous short violin excerpts. In the performance, Patrick will be controlling the entrances of these excerpts with his brain activity and eye movement with this EEG device. I hope you enjoy the work. Thank you very much.
This is the end of our program. Thank you so much for being with us. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope we don't have to be virtual again, but if we do, we will do it again. Thank you so much for supporting MacDowell, for supporting the arts, for supporting the artists. This is such a time we're in, and we doubly, triply appreciate your support. Stay safe.
It's broken my heart so many times before, but this one was the worst. Left me screaming on the floor. I was taught in the land of the free, in the land that screamed at me life, liberty. How can I turn my back on democracy? Am I still in pain, suffering from trauma? Am I insane, addicted to drama?